A man bought this wooden box for $500, but when he opened it, everyone was shocked. 2. Inside the box were 40 keys. And you might be wondering what these keys are for, but let me tell you, they weren't just any keys. Each key represented a different piece of land that this man had purchased throughout his life. And together, those 40 pieces of land were worth over $10 million. The man in our story was an ordinary carpenter named Thomas Gray. He was born in the 1930s in a small town, and for most of his life, he lived a simple life, working as a carpenter and spending time with his family. However, he also had a secret passion for collecting land. Whenever he had some extra money, he would purchase a small piece of land. And over the years, he amassed a collection of 40 pieces of land, each with its own unique story. Some of the pieces of land were located near the town where he grew up. Others were in nearby rural areas. But what really made these pieces of land special was their location. They were located in areas that were close to major highways, shopping centers, and other amenities. And he had a vision that one day these areas would become prime real estate. For many years, his friends and neighbors thought he was crazy. "Why buy dirt?" they would laugh. But Thomas knew that his investments would pay off eventually, and he continued to hold on to his land, patiently waiting for the right time to sell. And then the time finally came when he sold off some of his land and made a fortune. So if you want to know more about how Thomas turned his passion for collecting land into a fortune, keep watching until the end. You won't want to miss this. The question is, why did he buy land? Well, the answer is pretty simple. He saw a lot of potential in it. While everyone else was busy chasing stocks, crypto, and startups, he was taking a different approach. He was buying land because he believed that it would be a smart, long-term investment. But there's a lot more to his story than meets the eye. For example, do you know what he did to make sure that his investments were always worthwhile? He took a very scientific approach to finding the perfect pieces of land to buy. For instance, he focused on purchasing land near towns that were slowly expanding. This way, he knew that there would be a steady demand for the land in the future. In addition to that, he didn't just buy any old piece of land. He specifically looked for vacant lots and farmland that were being sold for cheap. For instance, in the 1970s, he was able to buy small pieces of rural land for just a few $100s. At the time, most people ignored these types of properties. They didn't see much value in them and were more interested in investing in things like stocks or bonds. But Thomas saw an opportunity. He knew that these pieces of land would become valuable in the future as the towns nearby grew and developed. As a result, he started buying up these pieces of land, even though they seemed like a bad investment to everyone else. To make matters worse, he didn't stop there. He kept buying more and more pieces of land until he had a total of 40 pieces. Imagine the amount of criticism he must have received from his friends and neighbors. Everyone thought he was crazy. They couldn't understand why he would waste his money on something that seemed so pointless. So while Thomas was taking a huge risk, he was also taking a very calculated one. In fact, he had done his research and he knew that the land prices would increase as the towns grew. So he was patient and he waited for his time to come. For years, he kept buying land and saving money. He didn't spend a dime on unnecessary things like vacations or luxury cars. He lived a very frugal lifestyle so that he could save as much money as possible. In addition to that, he worked hard as a carpenter to make sure that he had enough money to buy more land. He was determined to build his land empire, and nothing was going to stop him. Finally, the time came when he was able to reap the rewards of his hard work. The towns near his pieces of land had grown and developed, and now they were prime real estate. He was able to sell some of his land for a profit and retire comfortably. You might be wondering why he decided to buy land instead of investing in stocks, bonds, or other types of investments. Well, it's because he believed that land was a more stable and reliable investment. He knew that the value of land would appreciate over time and that it would be less volatile than other types of investments. Plus, He had a passion for land, and he enjoyed the process of finding and purchasing new pieces of land. Another reason why he chose to buy land was because he wanted to create a legacy for his family. He knew that the land would be a great investment for his children and grandchildren, and that it would provide them with financial security in the future. In addition to his passion for land and his desire to create a legacy for his family, there were also some practical reasons why he chose to buy land. For example, he was able to finance the purchase of the land with a low-interest loan, which meant that he didn't have to pay a lot of money up front. Additionally, he was able to purchase the land in rural areas where the property taxes were lower, which saved him a lot of money in the long run. Thomas was a man with a plan. He knew exactly what he wanted to achieve, and he worked tirelessly to make it happen. He had a clear vision of his goals, and he never gave up. No matter how difficult things got, he stayed focused and committed to his plan, which is why he was ultimately successful. Most importantly, Thomas was patient. He understood that building wealth takes time and that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. He didn't get discouraged when he didn't see results immediately. Instead, he kept putting in the work, and eventually, his hard work paid off. Thomas Gray was a man on a mission. He had a passion for collecting land, and he pursued it relentlessly. He bought up 40 pieces of land over the years, even though everyone thought he was crazy. But he didn't care what people thought of him. He was confident that his investments would pay off eventually. His story is a testament to the power of patience and persistence. He didn't get rich overnight, but through his hard work and dedication, he was able to build a fortune that lasted for generations. Now here's the best part of the story. After Thomas passed away, his children went through his belongings and they found out that he had left them a wooden box. They were curious about the box and couldn't figure out what it was, but when they finally opened it, they were shocked. Inside the box were 40 keys, and each key represented a different piece of land that their father had purchased throughout his life. The keys symbolized the legacy that Thomas had left behind for his children. He had worked hard his entire life to build up his land empire, and now it was theirs. But that's not all. They soon realized that the value of the land had increased dramatically over the years. Some of the pieces of land were located in areas that had become prime real estate, and others had been transformed into shopping centers, office parks, and residential communities. What's even more amazing is that the value of Thomas's land had grown steadily over time. Even during the economic downturn of the early 2000s, his land values held up well. That's because he had been so careful when he bought the land. He had only purchased it in areas that were likely to appreciate in value over time. They were amazed by the foresight and planning that their father had shown. He had truly been a visionary, and he had left them a fortune. This story is a great reminder that patience and persistence can pay off big time. Thomas didn't become rich overnight, but through his hard work and dedication, he was able to build a fortune that lasted for generations. In addition to that, it's also a story about following your passion. Thomas loved collecting land, and he pursued it relentlessly. He didn't care what people thought of him. He was confident that his investments would pay off eventually. So if you're passionate about something, don't be afraid to pursue it. Who knows? You may just find that it leads you to unexpected places. The story of Thomas Gray is an inspiration to us all. He showed us that with patience, persistence, and a passion for what we do, we can achieve anything we set our minds to. So never give up on your dreams. Keep working hard and stay focused on your goals. And who knows? You may just find that your dreams become reality.